Sure, it's 10:02. You can blame us. You can hop in the chat room, though, and come up with a creative reason why Brooke and Randy are late today. 10:02.
Hey, we don't have to do this. Oh, yeah. Well, we could come up with a creative reason.
Yeah, we can come up with a creative reason. 10:02. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Good
You
to have
can't
you with
blame
us
my
on the
pregnancy, okay?
We could.
That's off
We could.
limits there. No, that's not what it is.
Okay.
Girl Scout cookies. This could be Ben.
Oh, yeah. Get all your morning sports news on today's opening drive. Yeah, we're getting started with. We used to have a show called The Opening Drive.
I didn't even realize you just said that.
But it's here. It's right here on the. It says it right on the TV there.
What do you mean?
Here,
Where
look.
does it say
Get
that?
all your sports news on today's opening drive.
Oh,
that's what we call
handy.
the opening. That's what we call the segment.
The segment is the opening drive.
Right there in the top, it says
Yeah.
TOD topics.
Literally.
Today's opening drive.
Literally every day, right?
Literally every day.
We're doing a little wordplay here.
Eli says, "Go Blues 7 in a row." Thank you, Eli.
Welcome to the show, bro.
This could be
Thanks for
Ben.
listening.
Girl Scout cookies. Show them the Girl Scout cookies. There you go. The masses can't wait.
Samoas.
Austin Shiflett up too late celebrating. That's a good reason. Yeah, celebrating 7 wins in a row for your St. Louis Blues. We might be celebrating the projections for your St. Louis Cardinals too. We're going to talk about that in a moment. High definition. OMG. The Blues just won their 7th game in a row and in the playoff hunt. And you start with baseballs. Did we mention baseball yet?
Not yet. We just mentioned why we were late and cookies. So to be fair, maybe we could have led with the Blues and then we bring up cookies, but we'll get to the Blues.
We will. Jason Gordon got caught up trying to figure out the rationale of the opening day roster.
Oh,
yes.
We're still very upset about that.
Eli, RIP opening drive.
Oh, we're still we kind of just repackaged it, basically.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
It is. Yeah.
It's just repackaged.
Yeah. So Brooke, you passed this along to me last night. Brooke, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Brooke is an inveterate gambler and spends a lot of time on DraftKings. But you know what? A lot of young mothers do.
It's
course. Okay.
I got to start him young, honestly.
Yeah.
In the womb, preparing him for parlays, prop bets, anything like that. Trends that you see going on. That's totally what I'm doing.
Yeah, smart. So yes, Matthew.
I just want to say to high definition. Opening day is tomorrow. That's just a fact of the matter. We're in St. Louis. Every time the Blues play, in fact, all 7 times they have won in this streak, Sports Hub STL has gone live after with immediate Blues coverage. So if you want to hear some reaction, some maybe in-depth reaction to the Blues winning their 7th straight game. Wow, Robert Thomas, another 3-assist game, including a goal. Phil Broberg, 4-point game as well. 3 goals or 3 assists and a goal. Holloway's absolutely tearing things apart over the last 36 games with 36 points, I think is the exact number. They're fantastic. And because of that, Sports Hub STL is always there with you every time they play a game right afterwards. And every Sunday night with the Blues Hub Weekly, hosted by
Brooke Grimsley.
Brooke Grimsley, right there. She's on this show. I think she can talk a little Blues.
I like Blues hockey. I can talk about it all day long, and I can talk about Samoas too.
Samoas are the best.
Whichever you want me to talk about.
So Bubs realizes that you were at the Blues game last night, Randy. I was.
Oh, look at you!
Yeah,
how was that?
LGB. Oh, they're great. They're fantastic. Yeah.
Were you up in the press box?
I was in the press box. So Andrew Rogers and I, a co-host on Matrix Midwest, we did the Generation Trivia game, and I lost. I didn't know when they put up what was the thing that they showed me. I didn't know what it was. It was up on the big screen. Hold on, I'll think of what it was.
Bubs, you could chime in.
Yeah, Bubs, you can chime in. So, but I knew what kind of music Adam Wainwright sings. So, and the last thing was not. Oh, it was Minecraft. They showed me a Minecraft cube.
Oh, so what were the questions? So you had Adam Wainwright music.
Here's what Andrew gets. Andrew gets when Jack Buck made the call, "Go crazy, folks, go crazy." Who hit the home run? And Andrew's upset because I rolled my eyes. Come on,
that's easy peasy.
I got what kind of music does Adam Wainwright sing? And I said country and Western.
Good.
And then I don't even remember my other one. But I got 2 out of 3. He got 3 out of 3.
Wow.
So I was at the Blues game. Yes, LGB. It was great. We had a good time. Chris Pronger is here in our building today, and had a chance to stop by. And Prongs was doing the game on TV, doing the analysis between periods. And I learned so much from Chris Pronger. I just told him this morning, I said, to me, a good analyst is somebody who teaches me something every time I watch or listen. And Chris is one of those guys because he breaks the game down into an edible manner for me.
Those are always the best analysts, right? And having Prongs being a part of your broadcast is huge. So it's awesome to see he's doing that. He's here today. We'll have an interview. I'm sure you've seen it. We've teased it on social media with Mike Claiborne, who will be joining us today, by the way, at 10:20. Mike Claiborne interviewing Chris Pronger. So we'll have that up here soon.
All right. So we do appreciate you being here. Let's start, by the way, we're going to talk to Claibs and we're going to talk to Polo Ascencio, Cardinal Spanish language play-by-play man. Looking forward to that. He'll have the call tomorrow for opening day for the Cardinals and the Twins. But we mentioned gambling, and the Cardinals over-under, according to DraftKings, is 76.5. Here's what they say about the Cardinals. Quote, Cardinals didn't have the offseason sell-off that many anticipated, as Ryan Helsley, Nolan Arenado, Sonny Gray, and Wilson Contreras all still remain. Perhaps we're underestimating what St. Louis could do in 25. You are, since the organization has been open about looking towards 2026. However, the starting rotation falls off in a hurry after Gray and Eric Fetty. No respect for Miles Michaelis. And if the Cardinals are on the fringes of contention this summer, they may decide to sell off pieces like Helsley and Arenado as they plan for the future. So 76.5 is a good number. But I think a Cardinal team that wasn't as good as this one last year, 183.
Yeah.
And I think I would go with the over here.
Yeah, I think taking the over here is pretty easy for this one with the Cardinals. And look, we talked about the open day lineup, some issues that we had with it yesterday, but I think that at the same time, when you're just looking at what this team is capable of, hopefully everybody is healthy. Sonny Gray, hopefully will be healthy. I know that we talked about this yesterday, dealing with the illness, then some arm fatigue too a few weeks ago. That velo's been down. Andre Palante, his velo has been down. But to have Michael McGreevy also in the wing and then possibly Quinn Matthews, I think could be a great boost to the starting rotation. And you hope that giving these players runway, and I fully believe, I know that Bernie said this too the other day, and I'm fully on board with him. I fully believe that Nolan Arenado will have a bounce back season. I know that he's gotten older, but at the same time, I think that offseason, him not getting as much trade buzz as probably he was even thinking, or even the Cardinals at that point too, I think is going to be a huge boost for him going into the season.
I think there are some players also that perform better, and I know that he wants to go and play for a World Series championship team. I think there are some players, though, that perform better without the pressure and expectations of being a team that is supposed to win their division or supposed to be a championship caliber team. Arenado, I think, would have a great deal of difficulty being the front man for a team with those expectations. I think if he's the third or fourth guy on a team with those sorts of expectations, is probably his sweet spot. And he's got to be in the right ballpark. This is a hard ballpark to hit home runs in. But I think that Nolan Arenado is in a good spot, like you say, Brooke, to bounce back because he's doing it free and clear of any real high expectations.
That's what I was going to say is, don't you think that the pressure is kind of off for him this season? He's still there, so the pressure is still around. But what has been the narrative since Nolan Arenado has been there other than this season? It's about Nolan Arenado. What will he be able to do? Will he be able to lead them to the playoffs, past the first round, to a championship possibly? Because you also had Paul Goldschmidt here, which elevates the expectations. Those expectations are not there this season. Of course, we want him to perform well, but at the same time, this is about the younger players. The Cardinals have stated that over and over again. Ripped Up Card says, Randy, team is better this year than last year. However, a near historic season and a full season from our closer saved us in those close games. Tough to repeat that, and we only have him till late July.
That's a good point.
So you're already saying that he's gone. I don't blame you. So they brought him back. I think that will be a huge boost for him. Do you think he'll be able to at least be close to replicating what he did last season?
Probably not. He's got a history of injury, and it really is hard. I mean, even Bruce Sutter, like in 1981, they had the strike. 1982, he had 36 saves. He was great. Let me start by saying Bruce Sutter's the best closer I ever saw on the Cardinals. He was unbelievable. But so 82, he has 36 saves. 83, he comes back with 20 and blows a bunch. Then 84, his last year here, he saved 45, and he was kind of like Helsley was last year for the Cardinals. My point is that unless you're Mariano Rivera, and I'll throw Trevor Hoffman in there too, you're probably going to have a pretty mercurial career if you're a long-term closer. And especially because a guy like Helsley has already dealt with injuries. And I think he emotionally came to grips with being a closer and being used a lot last year. Good things happened for him last year. The one advantage that we have is that he's going to be a free agent after the season. So he should be a highly motivated individual.
He should be highly motivated, and hopefully he can stay healthy, because then that really changes things for the trade deadline.
Yeah. Another thing, though, that we have to keep in mind, I think, and this, I don't know why I think this is kind of a stupid thing to think, but I think they can't be any worse with runners in scoring position than they were last year. I think they've got to be better. And that's one of the reasons for the need for the historic season from Helsley, is because they left a lot of runners on base and scoring position.
Yes, it felt like there was any situation that really required for one of those guys to come through in a clutch situation. They were not able to last season. They were predictable in the worst way with runners in scoring positions. So that's something that hopefully they'll be better at. Keith Adams comes firing at us this morning. We're back to Gorman. Oh, here we go. Randy, here's my pushback on what you said about the players. The Cardinals lost and became stars elsewhere. None of these players were given half the chance to succeed like Gorman.
This is true, but the Cardinals want to find out. What happened is those players weren't given half the chance until they left here. And then they were given the chance, and that's when they became stars. And that's what the Cardinals presumably wanted to find out. And maybe they think they have found out during spring training that he is just not the answer that they're looking for. But that's part of the issue, is that sometimes you need to give young players little runway before they take off. We've seen it a lot. Not everybody hits 340 in their rookie year like Albert Pujols. Some players do take some time to get better in all sports. And I would argue that a guy who, did we decide he's turning 24 or 25?
I believe that he's turning 24.
Yeah, I think so. He's still a young man. And I think, because I saw it 2 years ago, that he has ability. Now, can he realize his potential? That's the big question. And that's what I want to find out. And I hope that's what the Cardinals want to find out. I'd much rather see him. I'd rather see him fail over 500 at-bats here and tell me he's bad, rather than send him out the door right now and have him hit 40 home runs for Mike Schilt in San Diego.
Exactly. And he's turning 25. So still in that sweet spot where you really need to figure out what you have with a young player. And Randy, I think that we should point this out too. It is very rare, because you are old school as it gets. We talk about Whitey Ball all the time, but I think a lot of people get really fixated on Nolan Gorman and the strikeouts, especially a strikeout percentage. You know all that, and you still think that Nolan Gorman deserves this shot. He deserves more of a fair shake at this.
Yeah, I think that, number one, I know because I've seen it again 2 years ago, he's capable of bringing that 37% strikeout rate down. He can keep it in the 30% range, hopefully the 29% range. But I also understand that there's a lot of people that don't care how a player makes an out, whether it's a ground ball to second or a fly out to the right fielder or a strikeout. They don't care how he makes an out. And that's just something that's different than it was when I was growing up. You used to be able to be a good major leaguer, you had to be able to get your bat on the ball. That's just not the case anymore. So I'm willing to live with Gorman, and he might wind up being a number 7 hitter, but a number 7 hitter that hits 35, 40 home runs, that's a pretty good guy to have.
And the power potential, as we talked about yesterday, but just to go over these numbers again, is clearly there for Nolan Gorman, but he hasn't played consistently. And that's why the season is so important for Nolan Gorman, a make or break, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because the power has always been there. Over his first 3 seasons, Gorman homered 60 times in 350 games, which comes out to a game average of 31. And of course, not a great career hitter. We mentioned that yesterday, 222 that we've seen there. But at the same time, he's never played 120 games in a season, nor has been given 500 plate appearances to show what he fully can be capable of. So this is his age 25 season. This is make or break. I want to see what we fully have with Nolan Gorman. Do you think that maybe some fans have some PTSD with Dylan Carlson seeing his stock just decline over the years?
I can absolutely see that. I understand why people have the questions that they do. And it's not like I don't have questions. I just want the question answered. I certainly have questions. I'm not saying he's going to be great. I just want to have the question answered here in St. Louis rather than somewhere else. If it winds up being affirmative, then that's a bad thing.
And this is the season to do it. This is a transition season. This isn't a championship caliber squad. Once again, I know that Vegas can get it wrong. We're seeing all those projections. We talked about DraftKings, and we're taking the over of 60. What is it? What did we say? 76?
76
76 and a half wins. That's because this offseason, they didn't do anything other than adding Phil Maton. They got rid of pieces rather than adding pieces that we typically see them do in free agency. This is a transition season. This is when you find out about these young guys, like a Lars Nootbaar, like a Nolan Gorman, like a Jordan Walker.
Yeah, and if they don't do it, they don't do it, and then Chaim Bloom is going to have to start over next year. But here's the thing: if you get rid of Gorman, I guess you plug Burleson in. But at some point, you're not going to have enough players. If everybody you think sucks doesn't get to play for you and you DFA them, then who are you going to be playing? You get Matt Koperniak up here going 4 for 4 every night.
I think that's what people want to see, Randy. I think that's what people want to see. They want to see Matt Koperniak. And
let's talk about a team that actually pulled off a rebuild.
You want to go back to the Blues?
Let's go back to Let's talk a little bit about the Blues.
Okay. I do want to make this point though.
Okay.
I want to go back to 2 years ago. This was the 2023 championship season. And that year, Nolan Gorman was 7th in the National League in home run percentage at 5.8. The people that were ahead of him were Matt Olson, who hit 54 home runs that year. Olson, Alonso, Ozuna, Schwarber, Muncy, and Soler were the 6 hitters that had higher home run percentages than Nolan Gorman 2 years ago. So I just want to see if he can do it. Okay, Blues last night. Awesome. 7 in a row, 13-2-2 since the Four Nations break. Brooke, 6 different goal scorers. Mm-hmm. They had 2 4-point players, both Broberg and Robert Thomas with a goal and 3 assists. And there seems to be a template. And I mentioned this on the TV show this morning, and I don't want people to think that I'm comparing this team to 2019 because the differences are dramatic.
Yes.
But one of the things that is similar is that this team gets a lead and just leans on the opposition. They're up 2-1 after a period, lean. It's then they score the next 4 goals against a good hockey team in the Montreal Canadiens. That and the offensive zone possession time, to me, are very similar.
And they're very quick. That's the biggest part there too, is that this team feels a lot quicker. They're not maybe as big and physical. We talked about as the 2019 team. You had a lot of very big guys on that squad. But at the same time, I really like even Holloway last night. Great game for him, which is kind of the norm that we've seen here lately in the 7-win streak. But he was even throwing his body around. I'm sure Pronger liked that one.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things that Chris said. Chris Pronger is in the building if you got in with us late. And I talked to him last night before I left the game, and I just said, hey, what do you think? I said the question this way. What do you think the difference is? And then I stopped and I said, what do you know the difference is between where this team was and what it is now? Because you know the game. And one of the things he said is, hey, they're going to the net. They're getting their feet in the blue paint. And you don't have to be Keith Tkachuk. You don't have to be Matthew Tkachuk. You don't have to be 220 pounds to go to the paint. You can go in there at 180 pounds and still tip it. I mean, if you are strong on your skates, you can be that guy. And Holloway is that guy. Robert Thomas can be that guy. Nadub is that guy. And this is a philosophy that over the course of the season, Jim Montgomery has changed. The things that are happening that are different. Number one, you're not going side to side. Is your defenseman trying to get the puck out of the zone? You're going north. We're in St. Louis. So you're playing a north-south game. So boom, get the puck out of the zone, get it into the neutral zone. People that can skate, get it into the offensive zone, cycle, confuse the defense, use your offensive ability and creativity to pass the puck around. And then somebody gets into the blue paint, take your shot, and it's going to bounce off somebody or bounce off a stick. The goal by Holloway, the Broberg shot.
Yeah.
Holloway's right in front and gets the tip. And that's how you score a bunch of goals in the NHL.
You could tell that there's a huge difference with Jim Montgomery there. He's able to really get the most out of the veterans and the young guys too. And they're just playing at a different level right now. You need to give credit to Jim Montgomery. Obviously, the players deserve a lot of credit here too, because they have to be able to buy into the program that Jim Montgomery is putting out there. But also Doug Armstrong. Every time that I just see Broberg and Holloway, especially Holloway too, the way that he has stepped up, I feel like I just want to go and like high five Doug Armstrong for pulling this off.
Brooke, I am absolutely convinced. The Blues right now have 83 points, and they're in the second wild card spot. And by the way, only 2 points behind Minnesota for the first wild card spot. We'll talk about that later because we don't really want it. But I'm convinced that if the coaching change hadn't been made, that the Blues would probably be a 70-point team right now.
Yeah.
Probably behind Utah and just ahead of teams like Anaheim and Seattle. I think that the coaching change, and I'll take credit for it because I put it on the Twitter machine. I said the Blues, when he got fired, I said the Blues should hire him right now. Then the Blues went out and did it. So thanks for following me, Army.
You're saying that not only does John Mozeliak have a burner account, but
Army does
Doug
too.
Armstrong does too.
And so he wouldn't hire him, and he did the right thing because Montgomery is, as I mentioned when the hire was made, and at that time I could only do it on the social medias, but he's a guy that works great with young players. Clearly, when you look at the ascent of the young players, how about how good Jordan Kyrou is right now? But he also is able to get to the veterans. How good is Braden Shen playing right now? How great are these defensemen playing? He makes every individual better, and the sum becomes the whole of its parts. And that's what you have right now with your St. Louis Blues.
So looking at the wild card standings, as you were doing this morning, Randy, they are catching up to the Wild. But is that necessarily something that we want to see? I don't think so.
I would rather play Winnipeg than Vegas in the first round.
I would too.
Vegas has that championship pedigree. They have those guys that have been there that just won the Stanley Cup a few years ago, went to the finals another time. And Winnipeg hasn't been there. And the Blues have that history. Now, the teams are primarily different, but a lot of the core of both of these teams, the Blues and the Jets, were around in 2019 when the Blues beat Winnipeg. And Jordan Binnington knows when he looks across the ice at Connor Hellebuck, yeah, I can beat this guy. So I think there are a lot of things that go into the Blues and the Jets. And taking nothing away from the Jets, I think they're a great team. I think the Blues are more capable of beating the Jets in a first-round playoff matchup than the Vegas Golden Knights.
And this is really, we could consider small, but Randy, you were around that 2019 team. That 2019 team was having a lot of fun too. This group is clearly having a lot of fun. Have you guys seen just the conversation about the camera stare down that they've started?
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. I it might sound silly, but I think little things like that do matter. If the group is having fun, they're all doing it. You've seen Justin Falk do it. You've seen even the younger players do it.
You got Jobu now.
Yeah, exactly. I think, yes, Jobu too. Yeah. I saw that. That picture is hilarious, but it just shows that they're able to have some fun. And Jim Montgomery, I think, also deserves a lot of credit for that. What did Craig Berube do when he came in? Change the culture of that locker room. And Jim Montgomery's been able to do that there too.
Yeah, it's, it's weird.
What?
And I know that the Blues had to do something last year with Craig Berube. But how did you, all due respect to the guy, nice guy, but how did you replace Craig Berube with Drew Bannister?
Because the players just were not willing to work, I guess, for Craig Berube anymore.
Yeah, but
that seems to be the issue.
Else.
Yeah, that would make a lot more sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even Steve Ah, right? On the staff.
Yeah, he's there. But now, either way, you have Jim Montgomery in.
Monty is here.
And
maybe that was it. Maybe Army was playing chess, not checkers.
He was just waiting for Monty to get there. And speaking of people coming in, we're going to welcome Cardinals broadcaster Mike Claiborne into the studio. Yes, you're hearing this right. Into the studio. You can see him sometimes on Cards Hub 365, but you can also hear Mike Claiborne here many different ways. And we're getting everything set up for you guys. Cards Hub 365 is coming up later. We'll have all the reactions and analysis going into opening day tomorrow as we get Mike Claiborne into studio. This is a big treat to be able to have Claibs in here, and he's getting set up. We're making sure that he is nice and comfortable. I do not see any carrot cake, Randy.
I know.
You knew that Mike was going to be here. Where's the carrot cake?
Don't eat carrot cake. It was a commercial that I did about 25 years ago that everybody still remembers.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Because it was 2 pounds.
Yes. And who has a 2-pound carrot cake in town?
Tucker's?
No, Porter's.
Porter's.
Yeah,
Porter's
over in Illinois, in Collinsville. They're still there. Okay. I probably should go over there and see if they have 2-pound carrot cake.
I bet they do.
2-pound carrot cake is a lot.
Yeah,
carrot cake.
It's a whole lot. It's too much. Yeah. And then I had dinner with a good friend of ours, Tim McKernan, and they served it, and he videoed me. It's a whole nother story. This is cool. This is the first time I've had
Yeah.
a chance to see the finished product. I mean, I've seen it. It was being built.
Yeah.
But this is really cool.
Yeah.
And I love watching you guys in the morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, this is such a treat to have you in, Claves. And I know
Well-
that you just did a great interview with Chris Pronger. I'm not going to have you reveal everything, but just anything.
We talked a little hockey
Interesting.
and life. And, you know, I say this all the time. Chris Pronger is the greatest player to ever put on a Blues uniform. Period.
Mhm.
Brett Hull's one of the greatest goal scorers. Al McKenzie is one of the greatest defensemen. But Chris Pronger controlled all three zones, and he's got the hardware to prove it. And I don't know anyone who ever said, man, I can't wait to play the Blues and I can have Chris Pronger on the team, because he was a beast to play against. And to have a chance to watch him, and Randy, you watched him, we watched him grow from a teenager
Yeah.
to
literally.
being one of the greatest players to ever play. And his size alone just said all you needed to know about how tough he had to be. So we had a lot of fun, and we're gonna drop that here soon. And I would suggest everybody check it out. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
When Joel Quenneville was the coach, they started back in the day. Overtime was 4-on-4 rather than 3-on-3. And Joel Quenneville would put Pronger out there as the
whole
only
time.
defenseman, right?
The whole time, though, that was the
Yeah,
other
the whole
thing.
time, the whole 5 minutes. And then it was Pronger and then three forwards. And the forwards would take shifts, but Pronger would just stay out there for
He
the
just
whole
stay
time.
out. You know, as I said to him, if it wasn't for Mike Keenan, I don't know if we'd know who Chris Pronger was,
That's a great point.
because
And he-
Keenan drove him and made him into the player. And then here comes Joel, who was the right coach for him as well, who trusted him and let him play. Again, for those who didn't see him play night in, night out, you couldn't take your eyes off of him, because he wouldn't do anything that was like wowing, but he was always in the right place at the right time. And again, he was hard to play against.
Oh, okay. Well, we have to talk about the Blues. I know we'll get into some Cardinals
All
because
right,
if we
let's
have
talk.
you here.
I'm
I know,
here
I
to
know
serve.
you love to talk Blues hockey still.
I do. I'm really excited for him.
Yeah, 7 wins in a row. You were around for 2019, obviously.
Yeah.
And we, of course, we're always going to do the comparisons to 2019. This group is different, but does it have the same kind of somewhat magical feel and touch as what we saw in 2019?
Here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing guys playing for each other. I'm seeing guys blocking shots. I'm seeing guys finishing checks. And if I don't know whether you notice or not, we don't have a lot of guys that can fight on this team. All right. But if somebody does a wrong, a Nathan Walker will try and right it. You know, Jake Neighbors, we have guys who are trying to play team tough. And, it starts at the goal line, Bennington and Hofer as a combination might be as good as any combination we've seen in a long time in Blues uniform. So those guys are playing well. It seems like Monty can throw anybody over the boards defensively, and they're doing a good job without your best player in Colton Parayko.
Yeah.
And who is now skating again. So maybe by playoff time, you can get him on the ice. But I just think that the biggest turnaround for me is watching Jordan Kyrou, who 3 years ago was a minus 37.
Mhm.
And now he's a plus 16 or 17.
Yeah, he leads the team in plus
Yeah.
minus.
I mean, so that says a lot about his commitment and maybe maturity. And you're only as good as your alleged best players are. And if they're not playing well and they're not making it contagious for everyone else to play as hard, then you can have a bad team. So right now it's fun to watch. They still have work to do. They're already in playoff mode. Okay. This is a team you probably don't want to face in the first round because they're already in that mindset.
By the way, Broberg is taking over the team lead. He's a plus 20, Kyrou a plus 19.
Wow.
Another guy,
Broberg, a guy who 90% of us had never heard of the guy until Army.
Maybe 98%.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you'd have told me, I watched him a little bit in Edmonton, but he didn't play a lot.
No.
And so when Army makes that deal, we're like, well, what are we getting here? Because that's kind of like a taboo, sign a guy to an offer sheet in the NHL. You remember when they did it to Shanny, and that was a whole shoot show. And we didn't know what we were getting. And then you think about Holloway and what he's done. I mean, Army he's kind of in that same boat with John Mozeliak. You might remember Mo for trading for this guy or signing this guy, it didn't work. And Army's got a scrapbook of guys like that too. But man, this one is one that you can forget about the Torrey Krug trade or not signing Pietrangelo and things of that nature. These two guys are here for the future, and they have such a bright one in front of them.
And by the way, we don't talk about this much, but not taking anything away from Travis Sanheim, who's having a really good year and had a good year with the Flyers last year. But the Blues, remember, they wanted to trade Krug and get Sanheim, and Krug turned them down. If they get Sanheim, they don't get Broberg.
Right.
So Krug might have done them a favor long term by turning down that trade.
So that's his contribution to this organization.
Yeah.
Brooke, when do you do, by the way?
I am due May 24th.
Oh gosh.
So we're
I just don't want you breaking water here.
No.
I'm in the room, like in the old West, is boil some water, get some towels. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be here for that. No.
How about JK and Jamie and Joe Vitale were talking last night on the telecast about what a different player Bolduc is now too. And here he is with 30 points, 15 goals, 15 assists. But I love the feistiness more than anything else.
I love it. And, again, I'm old school. I like guys who are willing to play the body. And if you have to drop the gloves, so be it. Because the cheap stuff I have no use for.
You
but
like
man,
Claude Lemieux, huh?
I liked it when he got pounded. I like that. But that's the only time I think I ever liked the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I see McCarty,
right?
Derek McCarty. Yeah. But when you look at these guys, the physical element is still something you concern yourself with, especially in postseason, because while they don't have designated fighters, they have guys who make you accountable. Yeah. So for Bolduc to play in the manner that he is confidence. And I give Monty all that credit, because here's a guy's a first-round pick, and you had him stuck on the fourth line, and you were playing him every other night. Now he's earned that right to move up on the roster. And if you're not playing well, then you may trade places with him. And man, we've been lucky to have really two good coaches here recently in Craig Berube and now Jim Montgomery, and how they relate to their players and they give them that chance. And I'm excited to see what a Dvorsky is going to look like and what maybe a Snuggerud is going to look like, because they're not fourth line guys. Okay. You don't make first round picks fourth line players. If I need a checker, I can find a checker. I can go down to Schnucks and get one of them.
But I said this to Brooke a lot in the first part of the season. The Blues' third line for much of this season was a fourth line for most teams, for most good teams. Yeah. And now they're infiltrating those lines with skill, and whatever you want to call it, but they're getting skill onto the third line. So you have a legitimate top nine and bottom three, where you had a top six, bottom six.
Well, and as we get into the playoffs, you're only as good as your fourth line.
Yeah.
That's where teams win games at, because in our fourth line, Blues fourth line, has really been good virtually every night. I mean, they don't score a lot of goals, but they remind you that we're out here and you better keep your head up. They may even draw a penalty. And I don't feel bad if they get caught in a line change with a number one line.
Agreed.
And there was a time when you'd say, oh my goodness, it's about to happen.
You look back at 2019, it was that fourth line that was just such a physical presence. Now going into tomorrow, obviously holiday here in St. Louis, we have opening day, a lot to go over with the Cardinals, but I just want to carry over this conversation because we keep having this come up in the chat. And I want to get your take on this, Claibs, but a lot of people are down on Nolan Gorman. Now, it hasn't been the prettiest spring training for him. And we talked about his strikeouts last season and that being a big issue. Hopefully he can grow this season. Why can you not just give up on Nolan Gorman just yet?
Because you've made too much of an investment and you really haven't seen him for a full season. I mean, he had the back issues. Then all of a sudden,
how long did you deal with those?
About a week. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. 2 shows on the weekend. Don't forget.
I can't believe he did that to you.
He has been doing this since the beginning of broadcast time.
I know.
Okay.
Oh man.
But he's a guy that I'm still trying to figure out who he is. I think one of the things that people look at when they see him, oh, he's a strikeout. He's a walking strikeout. And, everybody gets down on a guy who's a strikeout guy. Think about Little League. You have a kid on your team and it's 2 out and he was about to bat and you go get your glove because you knew he was going to strike out. It's kind of one of those things where, because his strikeout rate was the highest or second highest in baseball last year. He has too much potential, although we've said that every year, because once he has a level swing, he can hit him with anyone. And he's hitting left-handers better than a lot of people give him credit for. I don't know what kind of fielder he is. I don't know whether he's a second baseman or a third baseman because we just haven't seen enough of him. I know when he played second base, he made all the routine plays, and that's fine. I don't, would I like to have Julian Javier there or somebody else? Yeah, who wouldn't? But if you make the regular plays, I can live with that. But it's a good question you asked, because people are like, we're moving a lot of pieces on this table just to give a guy a chance to play. Well, if his bat works, and Ali says all the time, if you hit, you play. And if you do that, then maybe you have something really special. So how they get him 500 at bats, that's going to be the real challenge right now, especially with Nolan Arenado, who's still here. And I'm glad he's here, by the way, because we don't have anybody who can feel better than him defensively as far as third basemen are concerned. As a matter of fact, when you look at the organization, I don't know who the next third baseman would be after Arenado and Gorman. I mean, because
JC maybe?
No, I don't think so. JC's a third baseman. Okay. I think he's a middle infield guy, preferably second base. Okay. But I'm talking about our homegrown talent.
Okay. Yeah.
We don't have. I saw a lot of guys on the backfield, and none of those guys kind of jumped out at me saying, "Okay, he could be a third baseman in a couple of years." I just don't know who that is.
So, you were down in Jupiter for all of spring training. If the world is right, does McGreevy make it here by the end of May?
Yeah, I think so. I ask the question, what's more important, hopping out of a Ford truck on opening day or being involved in a big game in the month of May? And because he's a guy that's rotation worthy. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong in spring training. I thought when we saw him briefly last year, okay, this is a guy I might want to look at some more. And he checked every box. It's one of those situations where you were a little jammed with players that you've already made a surety to, that you have to find a way to keep them engaged because you're paying them. And that doesn't mean they did anything wrong. It's just a numbers game right now. But McGreevy will have an important role on this ball club this year. And whether it's in April or May, I hope he has one in late September where we're playing for something. Right. To have him run out there late September for a game that really means something says he worked out okay.
Speaking of infield depth, just kind of looking at the way that Ollie has constructed the roster. We were talking about this yesterday and the other day too. We saw who made the cut and who didn't. I know that there was a competition between Jose Barrero and Jose Fermin, possibly one of those guys being on the bench. And so you have a true backup shortstop option. But Michael Ciani making the cut. What did you think about those roster decisions?
That's a good question, because I think we were all kind of scratching our heads on what that was going to look like. Fermin certainly accounted for himself extremely well. Barrero got off to a great start, cooled off a little bit, and then found it on the back end. They both have interesting attributes that you would like to have on your team. They both can play shortstop. I think Barrero has a better arm. But when you look at what he was able to do, and for me offensively, he put the ball in play. He doesn't strike out a lot, and he understands that role. It's hard to get someone at 25 or 26 years old to say, you're going to be our utility person. What's that mean? That means you're not going to play every day. Anything else? Yeah, you may get 2 at-bats a week. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into. Oh, by the way, we want you to be sharp when it's your time to play. You'll play on getaway day. You'll play on Thursday afternoon or Sunday, but you probably won't be seeing a lot of action. And by the way, when you do play, when you're a pinch hitter, you're probably going to be facing the other team's best reliever or the best setup guy. So it's a very challenging job that you have to, A, pay attention to, B, find ways to get your work in that's going to be effective, and C, don't develop bad habits, because you can stand in the cage all day and swing and swing and swing. But if it doesn't have a purpose to it, then you're wasting everyone's time.
Like, it's interesting that we talk about guys like that and telling young players that you have to be that guy. And last year you had Carpenter and Crawford. You had guys, but they had never really been. Well, Carpenter had been a bench player, but Crawford had been a starter throughout his career. Yeah. Both of those guys were making the minimum that the team could pay them. And then you have a couple of other rookies. Remember, and I think this is one of my big gripes with baseball, I think you can make such a dent in other teams if you go out and get a couple of professional guys. Remember when Eric Davis and Sean Dunston were the Cardinals bench? And then they added Will Clark at the end of the
They were at the end of the trail, but they still had something to offer.
Professional at-bats.
And also something in the clubhouse.
Yeah, right.
Showing guys how this is. And the Cardinals did that a little bit last year when they brought in Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson, who were dynamic as far as their contribution. And I really hope that those guys find their way back to the organization in some way, shape, or form. But I think there should be an exception. Like the NBA has that exception rule where it's a veteran exception where it doesn't really count against the cap, and it's a fair amount of money. I think it's like $10 million you get. Fair. But point being, don't hinder the game because you want to go young because you're trying to save money. There's a role for those guys, and we're running out of them because we kind of X'd them out of the game. Right. We all know Tommy Pham. He's that guy now. Mm-hmm. Tommy Pham can help a team, if nothing else, mentoring O'Neal Cruz. You don't think O'Neal Cruz won't be a smarter guy with Tommy Pham and Andrew McCutchen standing around? We're
going to see Harrison Bader in town tomorrow.
Exactly.
Right? With a guy like a young team. Harrison Bader's a little older than Byron Buxton, but they can use that institutional knowledge.
Let's put it this way. Bader's been in a lot more battles than Buxton.
Yeah, right.
And Buxton's been hurt a lot, but when he's right, that guy is one of the best players in the game.
Yeah, right.
And I see he'll be right tomorrow. So we'll see him, and we'll get that out of the way. But you're right. The game has got to find a way to keep people interested, and also find a way to take care of the players who help build the game.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm sorry we're not going to pay you 15, 20 million, but we're going to find some money. Maybe it's 8. Mm-hmm. Whatever, because hopefully you did well with your money where you don't need it, but you can still make a contribution. And maybe also have a post-career program where guys can understand what coaching is about, and maybe working in. So if I ever owned a team, so that means I would have to win the Mega Trillion lottery. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The first thing I would do is, I'd do many things, but one of them would be I would take a former player with character and the ability to communicate, and I would put him in my A-ball system. The entry league, he'd be in Palm Beach in that league.
And you got to pay him.
I'm going to pay him a fair amount of money because he's going to move his family there. His wife is there. He's going to see his family every night. Kids can go to school there. All those things, because I need him to teach these kids as soon as they walk into the professional game.
Something. Back in the late 90s, I was doing a live at Shannon's with Steve Carlton. And Carlton said exactly that.
That had to be a treat.
Oh, man, he was great. But he said, I would love to go down and teach kids, but they don't pay coaches anything.
No, they don't.
He wanted to do it, but they were going to pay him like $28,000 a year.
And you know what? Again, I'm not going to try and make you a quadrillionaire, but I'm going to give you something that's fair. Make it worth the while. And make sure you're teaching guys a game. Because you have to remember, you have people coming from all over the world now. Okay. They're not just coming from, Clearwater, Florida, or San Clemente, California. They're coming from all parts of the world, certainly the Caribbean, and soon to be more South America. We see the Asian influence. So we need to have people who can teach these guys how to eat, how to dress,
right.
How to deal with the media, just the culture.
You can teach them how to dress.
I may be able to help them a little bit. I may be able to. There's a couple of things I think I can help them with. And I may even cut them a rate on teaching them.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to have fun too. But the thing is, we have to get these guys to stay in the game and teach them how to watch the game.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
The guys are looking at this and that. Listen, watch the game.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed. And I always talk about this. We have the scouting reports, and the scouting reports are so detailed that it's very little that you miss. But here's the one thing where they say he throws this, and that. Well, what if the guy can't get the slider over today? Or what if his changeup isn't working where they're picking it up too easy? So now, or maybe his arm is hurting. He had a bad bullpen. So now I can watch him and see, well, he's not being able to throw this pitch today, or not being able to. But your laptop doesn't tell you that because it's going on prior information. Right. So you have to be able to teach guys how to watch. Eduardo Perez used to talk about it all the time. And Jim Edmonds would talk about how they would make young guys sit with them and watch 3 innings and just, what are you seeing?
Good idea.
And do you have a question? Albert was kind of like that. He would have guys sit and watch. And
last year.
Yeah. Right. I would be on his lap like say Santa Claus at Christmas time.
Yeah, we're going to get to Polo. Polo's on the line.
Polo!
Yeah.
He knows what that means. He knows.
Over under 76.5 for the Cardinals.
Oh, well over.
Thank you. That's
Yeah,
what I
well
said.
over. Yeah. No.
Good deal.
Good seeing you.
We'll see you tomorrow at the
Thank
ballpark.
you, Clay.
Promise.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. What time you guys getting there?
That's a good
I'm
question.
going to be over at Ballpark Village at noon.
Okay.
Oh.
I will be there. I don't know what time, but I'll
Okay.
be there very
Yeah,
early
yeah.
and be there very late.
Thanks for employing us. Brooke and I really appreciate
Yes.
this.
Well, you know what? I never want to be called a boss in this situation or anything close to that. But as long as we're all having fun,
We're having a good
who
time.
cares?
There you
Yeah.
go.
All right. Hey, good luck with you guys. You guys are having fun
Thank
with this.
you.
This has been
Yeah, this is
terrific.
great.
All right.
Thanks,
I watch
Clay.
you guys all the time. And the Matrix thing is going well.
Yeah, it's everything's going really good. Yeah, I have 2 gigs. Yeah, you have an open invitation at any time you want to join us.
Well, I'm going to be around in the month of April, so you may see me.
Okay.
I may do the Bob Hope walk on.
I love
Whatever.
it.
you know.
Okay, we'll
And
do
the
it.
ironic thing about Johnny Carson hated that guy at the end.
Really?
Yeah, because Hope was always stay. If he couldn't just go back and forth, if there wasn't a written joke somewhere, and if it would frustrate Carson to no end. So,
Interesting.
so
I gotta read that book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
Thanks,
be more like Rickles.
There you go. See
Thank you
later.
so much, Claves.
All right,
And we have our newsletter to tell you guys about. Make sure that you've subscribed to our YouTube page and like this video if you haven't already. Go to sportshubscl.com and sign up for the Hub newsletter sent to your inbox twice a week and anytime St. Louis sports news breaks. You'll be the first to know about Sports Hub SCL events, merchandise, get exclusive content and prize opportunities, and more. While you're on the site, check out all the St. Louis sports content, including game recaps, programming highlights, sports news and opinion, gambling tips, and more. It's all on the website at sportshubscl.com. Also, we introduced last week, Bernie is now a part of Sports Hub SCL, so you can already see his work on there too. As long as you subscribe to the newsletter, just go to sportshubscl.com. Now, we're going to welcome in our very close friend.
Very, very, very close friend. I don't know if you can hear me. I can kind of hear you guys. You got me?
Yes,
okay,
you sound
good.
great.
Hey, so first of all, Mike Claiborne, my bad. When you guys mentioned that I was coming in, he booed me, right? Or he booed at the universe. Well, that's a running joke that we have since 2020. And that happened during the Cardinals cruise. If you have not been in the cruise, all Cardinal fans out there, it's a lot of fun. I had a chance to go that one year, and Mike was there. I mean, Mike is like the staple of the cruise. And Benji Molina, my partner in the booth, was there. I was there. Mike Claiborne was there. Jeff Suppan was there. Stubby Clapp. Pop Warner was there with a bunch of beautiful Cardinal fans. And it was one thing that they were introducing everybody one by one, and then I started booing at all of them. Like, boo, boo. So the whole cruise, we were booing at each other. And as you can see, Mike booing me, Stubby Clapp and Pop Warner, whenever we see each other on the stadium, we boo each other. And remember when there was no fans allowed in the stadium, 2020 season, I will boo from my booth because we were allowed to be in the stadium to watch the game and to broadcast the game. I will boo Stubby and Pop from up there, and they could hear me. So in case you hear me booing Mike Claiborne or any Cardinal out there, don't worry. We love each other. We're good. We're good like that. We have a really good relationship. And how you doing, guys? Hey, thank you. Congratulations, man and girl and baby.
Thank you, Polo. Hey, before we get started with baseball, we're doing great. Are you doing well?
Doing fantastic, man. I got here to St. Louis Monday night. I'm here. I mean, this is not my living room. Well, it is kind of my living room, but I live across the street from the stadium of the One Cardinal Way building. And oh my God, this is a great building. I mean, if you have a chance to come check it out, I mean, they're not paying me to say this, but I love it here. This is my second year living here, and I can tell you, last season it changed my life. No kidding. It changed my view of being in St. Louis, even though I lived like 4 blocks behind us here. But those 4 blocks make a big difference. The people here are great. And I mean, right in front of me, I see the stadium. Behind me, this beautiful lobby, the 8th floor. There's a bar, there's a pool. I mean, there's everything you need here, man. And I'm doing great. I'm happy. I'm ready for baseball or for whatever you want to talk about. I'm always good.
Well, okay, this is kind of off the beaten path, but I was talking to somebody yesterday. It was obviously Taco Tuesday, and we were going down the list of taco places. I said, you know what, we're going to have Polo on the show. What's your go-to taco place in St. Louis?
Do you know how we call Taco Tuesday in Mexico?
What?
Tuesday. Actually, martes, not Tuesday.
Okay.
Well, I have a few taco spots, and it's funny because this is our 10th season with Benji and I. Think about that. We already been doing this for 10 seasons. The first season, it was only 2 games, but still we count them. And people will take me to Mexican places. I'm like, no, I have enough Mexican food at home, and my mom and my mother-in-law, myself. But I've been to a bunch of really good Mexican places here in St. Louis. There's a few that I really like. One is called Tacos La Jefa. Tacos La Jefa on the Dutchtown part of St. Louis, Merrimack Street around there. It's really good. They have birria tacos with cheese inside, and they have all kinds of, oh my God, you're making me hungry now. I'm making myself hungry. So that's a really good one. And another one that I like to go to often is called Locos Tacos. That's in the city of Maplewood. Locos Tacos, Tacos La Jefa, those are 2 of my favorite. But again, I've been to Tacos Durango, also Taqueria Durango. It's really good. But if I were to go get a taco, I will go to Tacos La Jefa. And I love their place. I love their place. It's a family-owned business. Again, nobody's paying me to say this, but if you go there and tell them Polo send you, maybe next time they'll give me a free taco or a free horchata or something good like that.
Polo, we need to set that up. We'll clip it and send that over to them, and also the One Cardinal Way clip too, so we can get something rolling for that, because that was great advertising on your part.
I'm telling you, like that for real. Like they should pay me to say stuff like this, right? This building is great, and it's not a secret. Like I'm gonna tell you who last season Jose Fermin was living here. Tommy Pham. It was surprised when I saw Tommy Pham. He was living here. I think Chip lives around here. I mean, it's a really cool community, and walking distance to the stadium, and it's a lot of fun. It's it's St. Louis, it's baseball, and there's a lot of stuff going on around here because they're getting ready for opening day tomorrow. Big fiesta in One Cardinal Way, and of course the biggest fiesta of them all at Busch Stadium.
Polo, how do you feel about going into the season? We're calling this a transition year, the youth movement, where we're going to give these younger players some runway. Of course, you still have Nolan Arenado still here, but still, they're making sure that these younger players are getting a chance and an opportunity this season. How do you feel about this transition year?
I don't see a transition, because it's a continuation of what's been happening the last couple of years, right? This guy's here. I mean, Mason Wynn, 3rd season. Jordan Walker, the same. Victor Scott, 2nd season. Who else? Brandon Donovan, already a Gold Glover. I mean, who else is there that has not been here for the last 2 years, right? We see Andre Palante. He's been here for 3 years at the big level, up and down. Ryan Helsley, the same, a few years now. They're young, but they have experience. And yes, you have Arenado at the corner, one corner, Wilson Contreras in the other. And behind the plate, you have Ivan Herrera, who we've seen for the last 3 years too. Pedro Pajes is the young guy behind the plate, and he played like a real veteran with a lot of savviness. Something that impressed me a lot about Pedro at the spring training. We've seen him, and I talked to him about this before. We saw him before, right? The last few years, and we see him there talking to people, learning. Well, now that he had all last season, like he got all that experience last season for being with the big club, you could see it at spring training. He didn't change one thing. Maybe the thing he changed was to be a little more of a mentor of other catchers, like telling them what to do, telling them what to say, how to do this, how to do that. Even with Ivan Herrera, I saw him a couple times. Hey, Ivan, we need to go here. Hey, Ivan, don't forget, we need to go there. So I don't see it as a transition. I just see it as a continuation of what's happening, and I like it. I mean, Victor Scott, Mason Wynn, what is there not to like about those guys? I mean, Nolan Arenado, of course, coming back and staying here. I mean, and the fact that Wilson Contreras, he told me from last season, he's like, Polo, you're going to hear a lot of things, but I'm not going anywhere. I signed to play here for 5 years, and I'm going to be here for 5 years and hopefully more than that. So when you have a veteran presence like that, a leader in the clubhouse, because he is turning into that, I think that's going to be good. I mean, Ollie has a good group of kids under him with experience. Now it's up to all of us to work together and make it to the next level. I mean, I see that, with Claiborne and everything, we're talking about 80 plus victories. I see more. I mean, last season we had more than 80. People forget about that. Yeah, it was a rough season, but people forget that we had a winning record last season. And I had to repeat that a lot of times. People were like, no, we didn't. And I'm like, dude, unless I don't know how to read numbers of baseball, if there's one thing I know how to read is numbers in baseball. So unless I don't know how to do that now, then I'm wrong. But this is a winning team. This is a winning organization. And Brooke, especially you, because we talked a lot on and off. I don't say something that I don't mean. If I didn't believe this team was good enough, I will code and say, it's going to be fun. The kids are going to be exciting. Let's see what Victor can do. Oh my God, I'm ready to see Mason Wynn do his thing. No, I didn't say that. I said, we are going to win because I believe we're going to win.
Polo, you mentioned Pages there, and we had Matthew Liberatore on the show earlier in the spring, and he said Pages was his favorite catcher that he'd ever thrown to, and Liberatore threw to Yachty. It seems to me, and you're around these guys much more than Brooke and I are, but it seems to me that Pages is a guy that from a baseball perspective is wise beyond his years. Is that an accurate read of him, that he really knows the game?
He knows the game. He, like I said it before, it's like you can see him being the leader of this club eventually. He knows his space and his plays in this club right now. But that doesn't mean that he's not going to come up and tell you something, because I've seen him do it. I've seen him talk to Wilson and Ivan, of course, talking about the catchers. And you said about the pitchers. I mean, this guy knows all of those guys because he had them, right? Palante, he had him at some point. Libby, he had him at some point. All the relievers, most of them, he had him at some point. So that gives you something to lean on, somebody to trust. And when you have somebody behind the plate, and that's the good and the bad about having somebody like Yachty for 20 plus years behind the plate, is the good is you don't need to worry about anybody else but that catcher. The bad is you didn't have to worry about finding a good catcher. So when that transition came, you were like, we were a little lost because Wilson, Ivan, Pedro, who's going to be the next guy? Well, nobody's going to be the next Yachty. We know that. But I think Pedro has the right mindset, and he has the trust from his pitchers. And, you guys know, maybe, even if you didn't play baseball, that trusting your teammates is very important. And trusting your catcher as a pitcher, I mean, you can throw anything you want and he's going to stop it. Or at least you think he's going to stop it, and that gives you the confidence to throw anything you want.
Polo, I want to go back to Wilson Contreras, because what you said about Wilson is so true, is that he is really a true leader on and off the field. And I feel like the Cardinals are so lucky to have him. And the fact that he took on this challenge this offseason going into this year, where he's transitioning from being catcher to first base, I'm expecting great things from him, because hopefully that means that we'll also have a fully healthy season for him at first base. And we know that bat's there, but what have you seen from him as he's growing into this new role as a first baseman for the Cardinals?
I mean, if he was loose as a catcher, having all that pressure over the years and what happened here the last couple of years, now as a first baseman, you see somebody having a lot more fun. And a fun Wilson Contreras is good for the Cardinals, but it's bad for everybody else, because he's going to be loose. He's going to be ready. And I mean, we talk a lot, and he is eyeing gold. He said, you know what, a catcher I couldn't get it, but maybe first base I will. And funny thing, one of the games in spring training, he was obviously playing first, and I was standing on the right field side of Roger Dean in the stands, and there was a liner. I think it was Juan Soto. Just boom, he got one over Willie's head, and he dived for it. He gets it, picks it up, one hop, goes to first, and there's the out. And I yell at him in Spanish, "Hey, guante de oro," which means, "Hey, gold glove." And he could hear me from back there. He looked at me. He's like, "Let's go." So, I mean, when you have somebody with that confidence, even though he never played first base before, with that confidence, that's dangerous. Dangerous in a good way for the Cardinals, and a bad way for others. And like you said, Brooke, his presence in the clubhouse, you see Nootbaar behind him. You see Brandon Donovan with him. I mean, those guys are gravitating towards Wilson, and he likes it. He welcomes that attention and that responsibility. I'm not going to say he's the captain of the Cardinals, but that responsibility as one of the leaders in that clubhouse.
Polo, you could win the Good Guy Award every year from the baseball writers. You're previous winner. I am stunned that it's been 10 years for you and Benji doing games. Does it seem like 10 years for you?
No. It's like I look back and talking about good dressers with Mike Claiborne there. I like to dress sharp, especially for opening day. And I was going back on all my opening day pictures because, one, you don't want to repeat the outfit, right? You don't want to repeat the same suit. You don't want to repeat. With the tie, I usually wear a tie that my sister-in-law gave me when we started doing these games back in 2016. She's like, here, you're gonna need this a lot. So I wear that Cardinals tie often on opening day. But it's like going back, I'm like, wow, 17 the first one, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So it's look, I'm getting goosebumps, man. I mean, when I got here the first time to St. Louis, when Kyle Garcia brought me in to meet and Carroll and Dan Farrell, I mean, two people that are not here anymore working with the Cardinals because they retire. So that's how crazy it is for me to think that something that started as a hey, let's see what happens. It's turning into this, and I'm not shy, as you guys know, to tell everybody that if we are not the best Spanish broadcast in MLB, I would like to know who is, because we are going for them, and it's not a competition. It's just we want to be best for Cardinal Nation, and Cardinal Nation is not just St. Louis. You know that. There's a lot of people in Mexico, a lot of people in Puerto Rico, República Dominicana, Venezuela, all over the nation that listen to us. And every time somebody sends us a message, hey, I'm listening from here and here, nos estamos escuchando aquí, nos estamos escuchando allá. It's a lot of fun. It's a big responsibility. And yeah, man, I mean, one of the things that I like to say, and you guys know this, and especially you, Randy, this is more than just baseball, right? Baseball, it's my excuse to be here, to get a job, and to keep doing what I'm doing. But going out in the community is something that I love doing from day one, and we're gonna keep on doing it. And Los Pajaritos de Polo is in its third or fourth season. The first group is coming up on this upcoming Monday. And when you see the faces of those kids, of those families being on the field, I mean, if they're happy, I am happier, because that's what's about. It's about doing something that we love, but how much can we make others love, not what we do, but what they can enjoy because of us. And I love that. I really do.
Yeah, Polo, you do a lot within the community, and it's great to hear that you're doing more stuff with the groups this year. Anything else that you might want to plug going into the season? More games for you guys? Anything like that going on?
Well, for now, I mean, we're staying at 81 home games, but there's a big chance that we do some road games this season. We at least I think Benji too, we signed a 3-year extension just this off season. And when that came about, there was some language there that implies that we're doing some road games eventually. And the other thing, the work that other people put behind. Obviously, you hear my voice, you hear Benji's voice, you see us doing different things. But there's people like Selena Allen, who's been like great with this project. I mean, it's not a project anymore. It's with the Spanish broadcast. Ben Boyd coming into the fold. I mean, it's crazy, Randy, to think that now, even though we started with 2 games in 2016, right now we have the largest Spanish network in MLB, even though we only do the home games. We are bigger than the Yankees. We're bigger than the Dodgers, bigger than the Padres, bigger than Chicago, bigger than the Astros. And I mentioned those teams because those teams are their home base. It's Latinos, a lot of Latinos in LA, Chicago, and all those cities. St. Louis is growing little by little. But like I said, it's not just St. Louis, it's everywhere around it. So you can listen to us on La Tremenda every single home game. You can listen to us on the La Tremenda app, the MLB app, and also with FanDuel Sport, SAP. I know Chip and Brad and Alexa and everybody who's in there, they do a fantastic job. But if you want to give us a chance, trust me, you're not going to regret it, because, it's baseball. It's fun. It's Cardinals. I mean, what else can we do?
It's a lot of fun. Hey, can't wait to see you tomorrow, Polo. Thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it. Have a great season in 2025, and hopefully you'll be a regular on the show.
Hey, why not? Why not? And hopefully next time I get to visit. As you know, a lot of things going on. Settling in yesterday in my apartment, doing a few things today. But next time I will do my best to come over. Hey, and perhaps on the way there, I go get some tacos, and then boom.
Oh,
I like that. And by the way,
Yes.
for those that aren't aware of it, people that might not have listened when we did the radio show, I am not an avocado guy, but Polo Ascencio makes the absolute best. And you won't tell me what the secret is, will you?
I believe the phrase is he hoards the absolute best.
Yeah.
Look, Mr. Rock. By the way, a lot of people don't know this, But Rockio was one of our first engineers. He didn't, I mean, I'm sure he doesn't understand any Spanish still, but he was the engineer from the old 590, and he was there, and he just kind of figured it out. And look at him now. You know, he's a producer for you guys. He's been all over the place. So congratulations to you too, Matt. And the walk. Hey, maybe first tacos, then we can do the guacamole in studio. But we'll see. We'll see. I need to find the right avocados, the right aguacates. I know where to go here in St. Louis to get those. So who knows? Maybe next thing you know, instead of eating the salsa, we're gonna eat the guacamole from some store here in St. Louis.
Love it, Polo.
Great.
Thank you, sir. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank
Thank you, guys. Best of luck and congratulations again.
Thank you. Appreciate it. What a great guy.
I know.
I love Polo.
I know, and I've never experienced a guacamole, so now I'm a little jealous that other people have.
Oh,
I don't think I have.
I don't think you did. No.
Yeah, I've missed out on that.
It's really good.
And I'm like Randy. I'm not a huge guacamole fan, and I have dreams about that guacamole.
It's fantastic.
It was a complete game changer.
So Taco La Jefa,
Mhm.
and then Locos. It's LOCOZ. Locos.
I've been there before.
I'm
I have
I'm
been
checking
there
out both
before.
of those right
Oh, yeah,
now.
me too.
So
gonna
I've
go
definitely
one
been
of those today.
to Locos Tacos as he said, 100% worth it. Those are so good. Really, really good over
Okay,
there. They
I
do a
will-
great job.
I'll check it out. Right down the street from us here, right? On Manchester? In Maplewood? Did he
A little bit more than right down
It's
the street.
like-
I'd say.
yeah, it's like a little bit
It's on
further.
the other side of Big Bend
Okay.
on Maplewood. So I mean, it's down Manchester. You're not wrong, but
I'll
yeah,
just
it's right
drive
next to the
fast.
Post, which we
I'll
love.
just drive back.
Yeah, it's right next to the Post and some other people right there in that Maplewood stretch.
All right. I'd love to see Polo call a blues game. Ellipsis 150. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
We need to do that. Should we do it? Ask Uncle Randy since it's
I think that we
Oh, it's not like I
should.
was prepared for that or anything. Oh,
Yes.
there we go.
Ask
There we
Uncle
go.
Randy.
Ask
So you can
questions,
ask Randy
comments,
any
and
question.
queries.
I feel like you're waiting for a love story or dating advice. Those are your
Yeah.
favorite Uncle
Well,
Randy's.
and you know what? It seems to bloom with the warmer weather. And so at this time of year, especially, I think it's a great time to ask Uncle Randy. And, you know, just whatever question you might have, I will give you an honest, unfiltered answer. And here we go. 64 degrees today, 69 tomorrow, 55% chance of rain. But on the weekend, you're going to ask her out today, hump day. Say, hey, what are you doing on Friday or Saturday? You get a date, okay? Friday, 77 degrees. Saturday, 68 degrees. So, you know, great first date weather, great first date weekend. So, hey, what do we do? What do we do on the first date? Because it doesn't seem to me that the movie at the theater is like the first date thing anymore.
No, I feel like
No.
that's like more high school ish,
Yeah.
maybe.
You know what?
Where your
I-
parents drop you
Yeah.
off and then
how about
yeah.
Putt Shack? You guys,
That'd be cute.
Yeah.
That'd be
Putt
cute.
Check's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I mean, anything where anything that you put yourselves in a comfortable environment where you're talking a lot.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
There
all
you
you
go.
want. That's
Yes.
the goal. So yeah, I think Putt
Uh-huh.
Check's a good idea.
So
We
get
did
any of your
yeah.
questions for
Yeah,
Uncle
any of 'em.
Randy.
Hey, you want to help me fix my carburetor this weekend?
We got a question from Let's Turn 2.
Okay.
What should be the first food item purchased at the stadium tomorrow? You guys obviously experts on this one.
The Shack chicken sandwich.
I
It
knew
is
you were gonna say that.
expensive, but it's worth it. You know, of course, like you can get your standard hot dog and all that kind of stuff. But if I want a really just good chicken sandwich, the Shack one, especially if you do the upgraded one with the Vincent Van donut.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Okay,
It's worth it.
yeah.
I think it is probably around like 16, 17, but worth it.
Yeah. Brooke, you want to tell people how I started the other day?
How did you start the other day?
With
with
Freddy's
the-
Turtle Concrete.
You did.
That's how I started.
Yeah, that's how you started. So we showed you guys the food yesterday that we were able to try. I wish they had a little bit more food items. Were you kind of a little sad about that?
I wanted a little bit
I
more
wanted like a
variety.
full experience, and
So-
maybe I was just really hungry. But
Mhm.
we started with Freddy's custard,
Mhm.
and that was so
It
good.
was really good.
And then the hot dogs. So
And that's where I would start, by the way. This is not your typical ballpark hot dog. Head on out to the Ford Plaza and get the brisket hot dog. I would go that direction. And as you may or may not know, the tachos, I think they're outside section
the
135
tachos are always
or
good.
137.
Yeah.
It's nachos made with tater tots.
Is there a
mm.
difference between loaded tater tots and tachos?
Well, they're just, no, probably not.
No,
No.
Probably the same
They
thing.
used to have a home plate shaped box that they put them in,
Oh,
which was
that's
great.
cute.
Now it's just a square box.
Because I made
Why?
loaded tater tots the other day, but I'm pretty sure they were just tachos.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
that's
wonder
what you made.
where's the line.
Yeah, you made it with tachos. Yeah, you had tachos.
Ooh,
But
Bubs has like a lovely question
Okay,
here
good.
about love. Just got engaged in February. How long from an engagement should a wedding be? What season is the best to have a wedding?
okay, first of all,
Congratulations.
yeah, congratulations. And now in St. Louis, I think you can go pretty much anytime. We used to have to worry about October. Don't have to worry about that anymore.
You're saying this like planning around
Yes,
as a sports
do.
fan.
Don't ruin college football.
Oh, good.
Saturdays.
Okay, good point. Yeah, no Saturdays in.
Get married in the spring,
Yeah,
or in a
spring,
different-
spring is good.
or do the winter
So,
in a different.
Brooke did
place.
summer.
I
Summer
did
was
I
fine.
did June.
Yeah.
It's too.
It was hot.
It's just. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It was hot.
You can't play that risk.
Okay, good idea, Matthew. So
especially if it's
September,
gonna be black
October.
tie.
Nope.
If you have a
September and October, don't do
If you have a black tie wedding in like June or July, I want to wring your neck.
it. Okay.
Because like
So-
I'm sorry, like I love wearing a suit, but like give me some options by like being a little bit more
It depends
casual
if
in the
you're
dress.
fully outside.
Oh, I would.
So,
oh my God.
Bubs, first of all, you got married literally last month, so congratulations. How
Engaged,
long
yeah.
Engaged.
from a wedding? Yeah, engaged. How long from the wedding, from the engagement to the wedding? I think much of this depends on how long you've been together. Like, did you wait 4 years before you asked her to marry you? And your age. I do advocate, and Brooke waited till she was in her 30s. Matthew's waiting till he's in his 30s. I do advocate for your 30s, unless, if you've been together for 5 years and you're 35, you can get married tomorrow. You kind of know what you're in for. But if you've only been dating for 6 months and you're 26, I think there should be a little bit more. What Uncle Randy's advice would be is to have the wedding day occur after you both turn 30.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends, but maybe if he's just thinking like just a certain date in general, I would say like a year. But honestly, as someone who went through the wedding planning and it took about a year from the engagement, save so much of your money. It's so much of it is so scammy. And just looking back, loved my wedding, but looking back, there's a lot of things that I felt pressured to feel like they were necessary, especially now with all the trends and social media pressures of, well, this person did this at their wedding and that, and you need to do this too. Sometimes I just feel like the wedding industry has just gotten way too crazy.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable.
Way
I
too
think,
crazy.
I honestly think that everyone should get married in a destination wedding with 30 people at the most. I think that is the smartest way to do it in so many ways. And it's just like yeah, the people very close to you, it kind of sucks for them because now they got to pay for a trip that isn't really their vacation and all that kind of stuff. That part does suck, but at the same time, like the 60th person in your life that you're never seeing again, they're not getting wrangled into having to be part of this and all. And I think that's honestly a very nice thing to do to your ancillary family that you don't ever talk to, is to have them is to rope them into this thing that they have to be a part of. Just do like 15 people at someplace kind of nice and pretty.
If that's what your family desires, I think that's good. And you do have to remember that ultimately it is your wedding. And I think you make a good point, Brooke, about being able to plan. If the wedding is going to be substantial, you do need time to have a wedding plan, find a wedding planner, get a band, figure out what the food is. So when I said you could get married tomorrow, that's obviously if you just want to get married. But if you have to plan a wedding, it probably takes a year. And one of the things, Brooke, has the statute of limitations passed so that you can tell the story about your wedding planner?
Wait, which part?
The bar mitzvah?
Oh, the bar mitzvah. You mean the thing with the chairs? Is that what you're talking about?
No. You were going to, your wedding planner had a child who was going to have a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah.
So I thought you were talking about the one we ended up with. So
no.
This just kind of shows you just how absolutely crazy the wedding industry can be. So I had an original wedding planner, paid the deposit, everything. And then all of a sudden she throws at us like, well, my son's bar mitzvah is that weekend now. And so I can't be your wedding planner. And she didn't give us our deposit back.
Still?
Yeah. Nope.
That's unbelievable.
So there's that. Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. That sometimes it feels really scammy.
And that's what
she's like a well-known, like I wish I could fully put it out there. She's a well-known wedding planner here in St. Louis, event planner.
There's no way I'm paying. I like
They've
that's one
already
thing.
paid.
That's one thing right out of the gate that I don't want to have to pay for is a wedding planner.
So,
Yeah.
by the
Oh,
way,
God.
according to the Google machine, the average wedding cost in 2024 was around $33,000, ranging from 14 grand to 49
ridiculous.
grand.
Well, and then you
Yeah.
learn it. So Bubs also chimed in to answer your question, Randy.
Mhm.
Bubs says together for 6 years and 26
Okay.
years old.
So you know each other. This is going to work. Okay. You
Mhm.
love each other. You've been together for this long. So I think, once again, because you've been together, I would go, you got engaged in February. I would go with that 1 year rule.
Yeah.
And I think the average is 33 to 40 grand.
Average is 33. They range from 14 to 49.
Okay, so if the average is 33, my thought process is, yeah, if like 6 of that 33 isn't flights to Italy, what you're budgeting wrong, in my opinion. Just I like it's the older I get, and I'm so glad I didn't get married when I was younger. If I would have gotten married, first time I almost got married, I
Maybe
would
we
have
should
been
reveal that story.
adamant that it was a 400, like 300 people, every one of my extended family members there, big wedding, 100%. That would have been my mindset, because that's what all my cousins did, and I had it like in my head that that's what I wanted, and I would have probably been happy in the moment, but now I'm so happy I didn't do that, and now it's 15 years later, and I'm not going to touch anything like that.
One thing you learn, and this is why I advocate for waiting. Like Bubs has been together for 6 years, because sometimes, especially women, like 99% of the time, I think the women tend to get more intrigued by the wedding than the marriage.
Mm.
And that's what there's,
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that, because we treat girls, we tell them about weddings and princesses and stuff like that, and they think, oh, I want to have the dream wedding, but do you know women like this,
I
where
do.
the wedding becomes more important or is more important to them, at least at the outset, than the marriage part of it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I-
There is definitely something, and that's why I said social media. So going back to what I was saying with like the trends and stuff, I think that too many times we get lost in keeping up with the Joneses, and that can carry over into wedding culture, right? Where you do a lot of things where it's like, well, so and so did this at their wedding, so now I can do it. It almost feels like you're always trying to one up people. So
Like that
Waterboy,
show, like that
I'm-
show, the 4 weddings.
I may or may
Waterboy
not be
says-
aware of somebody who's going to have 2 weddings in under 4 years.
oh geez, the second one, if it's under that timeline, the second one, that's a courthouse wedding. Waterboy says, I'm waiting for the show where Brooke just slaps Randy on air.
Were you ready to slap me?
No, I was interested with where you were going, and I don't completely disagree with you. But yeah, I think that I have heard too where there is some groomzillas. So we hear about bridezillas all the time, but there's plenty of groomzillas out there
Okay,
too.
yeah.
There is. And I think that some people
Yeah,
just
people
get caught up in too much of that it's an event for other people rather than it being about you two. And so I'm just giving my advice for Bubs. If you guys decide you want to have, a huge wedding, so many people, like 200 plus and all that stuff, whatever makes you guys happy. But from my own personal experience, I already knew from a young age I didn't want a big wedding. And I wish I would have stuck to that a little bit more. And a wedding planner does help. But man, it just like, you've heard of the pink tax, right? Where things are more expensive for women just because they market them towards women. There's like a wedding tax with things. So all of a sudden the
Yeah.
photographer that you might get, for family photos, it's like triple the price of what it would be just for regular photos because it's a wedding. Same thing for hair and makeup. They like triple the price just because it's for a wedding. Like it's like an extra tax for every single little thing. So my suggestion would be for you, Bubs, and for anybody else is get together with your partner, decide maybe like the top things that are non-negotiables that you definitely want to agree on. And then everything else is just kind of that we're not going to, do that for the wedding.
Okay, good. Thomas Gonzalez, with a 20-year-old daughter, you are making me nervous. Don't be too nervous. I also want to get to this one from number one Blues fan, because this is very important in terms of setting priorities. Uncle Randy, my wife and I are finishing the basement and are expecting. We have been saving for these expenses, but Blues playoff tickets are an
my
acceptable
gosh.
expense, right? Yes. Here's the thing.
You don't need a
You are likely to have more than one child. And you're likely in your lifetime to have more than one house and maybe even more than one basement that gets finished. it's not every day that you get the opportunity to experience a Blues playoff run. So yes, Blues, and especially look at what's happened to us.
But you
last
hopefully
couple
only
of
get
years.
married once.
Well, hopefully, yeah. But here's the thing. I would say that, yes, we all need to set priorities, okay? And number one priority is always postseason sports. Number one, in every endeavor, in every situation where, unless it requires like medical care, sometimes even that, the number one priority should be postseason sports.
You know what unfinished basements are great for?
What?
Little knee hockey.
Oh, yeah.
So after you
Yep.
after you and the wife are expecting, so you guys have the kid right after the Blues wrap up their second Stanley Cup in team history.
Yep.
You know, and now you got little Robbie Thomas now, who's gonna grow up being a diehard Blues fan because he was born right after they won a cup. Good thing the basement's unfinished. Now he's got a place to play knee hockey all day long,
There
and
you
you don't
go.
have to worry about him bashing up any of that nice finishing. You don't need the finished basement. Kids love an unfinished basement. They need something to terrorize that isn't going to cost you money. Think about this long term.
When I was like 10, we were playing hockey in an unfinished basement, and we didn't have equipment. I used like rolled up newspapers for goalie pads. I was the goalie.
We're gonna make space.
And I got hit in the mouth, and it knocked out a tooth, and I was bleeding all over the place. I've had like
So then it was good that it was an unfinished basement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, that
because it
the
did
kid
bleed a
needs
lot.
that.
Yeah. But ultimately, though, you want to have the unfinished basement,
Yes.
or the finished basement.
Oh.
You want to finish it off because you want to have that cave down there, and especially during the summer months, you want to go down and watch
Yeah.
Cardinal baseball.
You finish it up when they're like 13, though. I'm saying
Yeah,
you got that first
that's
decade
fine.
of just terrorizing that where you want it unfinished.
Also, number one Blues fan, just got married last April and had no idea how quick money would add up. That also happens, by the way, with Blues playoff tickets. Start preparing now, Thomas. Yeah.
It gets expensive.
Yeah. Save all. Do you guys carry around change or put it in a jar anymore? Does do young people ever have change on them?
No, I don't keep any cash or change on me whatsoever.
I do. I use change, but then I have a
got the little-
bottle.
I got the little
The
tiny
Apple Pay.
no, the little thing on my in my car that
Oh,
kicks
yeah.
out right next to my steering wheel.
Mhm.
That's full of change.
Okay.
That's where it
okay.
all goes.
So the only Rams
little heavy now.
thing that I have in my house is an old Rams popcorn bottle. It's about this tall that I keep changing, and that's where I.
Oh, they used to
put my
have those
change.
all the time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it literally is a bank. It's like this tall or something.
Yeah.
And so I put my change in that. But it's aside from like a Super Bowl cap and an Isaac picture and some Greatest Show on Turf pictures. But the only thing, let me put it this way: the only thing with the gold Rams horns that I have in my house is that popcorn bottle that I keep changing. All right, we've got a new one here. You mama, we had an unfinished basement. Me and my brother built.
I don't see if either of you
Kumite?
knew what this word was.
Kumite?
No.
Kumite is what
Kumite,
he's saying,
okay.
which is from a movie from the 90s. Is it Bloodborne? No, or it's all I can't remember exactly the movie he's talking about, but it's the Kumite, which was a secret underground fighting competition in this movie. I'm blanking on the name of terribly. And so he's saying him and his brother built essentially an arena where they where they fought each other all day long.
Yeah.
Which yes,
So combat
okay.
training.
if you
That's
have
great.
if you have two boys, they will break each other. And I say
Blood
that
sport.
blood sport. Thank you. And I
Yeah.
say that as somebody. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jeff. You got me on that one. I knew it. I remembered Kumite. Get off my back on
That's
this
good.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
I don't
brother broke me a couple times. So that's a good thing to have in the basement if you're gonna have two boys, especially because if you have two boys, they will turn a room into your house into a kumite, which will become things will be broken, bones will get broken in there, heads will be cracked, stitches will have to be sewn, both in furniture and into body parts.
We need
Sorry, Brooke.
number one, if you're listening from out of the St. Louis area, Thomas Gonzalez, thank you so much for watching from Colorado. If you're outside the St. Louis area, you always communicate with us via the chat. Thanks for watching. We also get Waterboy wants to know if I have a Cronky dartboard. I do not.
That would be. You should come up with that.
Well, that was one of the things we were going to use in the unfortunate instance of his
What an incredible-
capitulation
what an
when we have the
incredible
party.
idea.
That we'll probably have a few of those.
Look at this is the most I want to become Bob's friend. This is the most boomer comment, but I respect it so much.
handle Jim Beam will hold about
325
325
worth of quarters. That's a man
sounds
who
like from
knows
experience.
his
Yeah.
game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good for you, Bob.
Bill Downton from Arizona. Thank you very much. This could be Ben, also from Colorado.
Oh, cool.
Good.
I like this one from Ellipses. I hope both sides of Cronky's pillows are warm.
That's the worst, honestly. You want
Well,
a nice, cool
yeah.
pillow.
When you're the devil probably plays into it.
That probably does.
You
yeah.
really should create the Cronky dartboard.
I think it's already been created.
Well, our good friends at Hot Shots,
Hot Shots had that.
what they did Cronky urinal cakes.
Yes, they did.
So
I
that
had
That's a
couple of
great
those.
idea.
So that people
Yeah.
obviously were relieving themselves upon him, and that was just Jay Boyd and Hot Shots.
He was going to help with the party. Yeah.
Incredible job on that one.
Nice.
So we can still do that. I mean, there's still time. We still hate, right? Oh, by the way, did you guys see, speaking of Cronky hate in our town, that the UFL players might go on strike before their first game on Friday?
That's not good.
No.
Yeah,
I
they're
didn't see
so
this.
reported on ESPN. Several players telling ESPN that the only leverage they have is to not play.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that
Because they're supposed to play on Friday.
wouldn't that end the
Battlehawks are.
league? Wouldn't that end the league?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd probably be bad.
What is
That's
going on here?
disappointing.
Well, they number one, I think they think they're more important than they really are.
Randy.
Well, I mean, because there's no the league lost $60 million.
Yeah.
So here's the story from Kevin Seifert at ESPN.com. UFL players have not ruled out a strike as they approach the start of their season without a labor contract. 4 players told ESPN last night. Michigan Panthers safety Kai Nakua said, all options are on the table. We need to talk as players, all of us as a union. We need to sit down and we would have to have that talk, but we meet a couple of times a week. I know guys are getting ready for the first game, so we'll find a time that everyone has the time to meet. 3 other players also spoke to ESPN, and one of them said, it's hard to play when you don't have a contract. It's something that you obviously don't want to display to the world, but at the end of the day, that is our leverage. Our leverage is not playing. I don't know that they have leverage because I really think that if the UFL would disappear for the first 2 weeks of the season, I think it'd disappear forever.
Yeah. Well, and then also here in St. Louis, we love the Battlehawks, of course, but you have it starting the same weekend as the Cardinals begin their season. The Blues are really hot right now. So on the hierarchy, quite low, I would
And
say,
soccer
on that
too.
list, and soccer too. So I'm looking at the story from Front Office Sports, and they are saying that the players are seeking an increased compensation for the reported $55,000 base salary they got for the 2024 season. And they're wanting to go up from that, but I'm not sure exactly how much they're trying to seek.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's to your point, Randy, of what the expectation is when you go to the UFL of how much money you make. If they lost 60 million last year, and I'd be curious what the TV numbers were like, because I'm sure they weren't that great. I know that St. Louis did a great job with their TV numbers and obviously showing up for attendance, but how did the rest of the league fare?
Not well at all. And the TV numbers they think are acceptable, but I don't think another team even had double-digit average attendance. I think the next highest attendance was something like 8,000 a game. And I heard Moose Johnston on with Michelle Smallman on ESPN Radio yesterday, and he said, we want to get more people at our games. That's our next objective, is to get more people there and increase our attendance. Well, players, I know that they think that they are a great product, and they are. They're a fun product, but they're not playing in a league where they're generating a ton of revenue. And I think that you need to understand your place in the hierarchy, as you said, Brooke.
Yeah.
That and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. They aren't in the NFL where
Mhm.
players are getting $55 million a year. They're in the UFL, and I think they need to understand, I hope they understand, that if they aren't going to play here, they aren't going to play.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that this is kind of seen as, in my opinion, kind of another shot at trying to get into the NFL.
Yeah. But that should be their goal, is
Mhm.
to make the 55 grand a year and hope that you can get signed by the NFL.
Yeah, that's a really unfortunate for them.
Yeah, it is.
So Ellipsis says they need to target cities that were abandoned by the NFL. I think having a UFL team in San Diego and Oakland would be good.
I think it would. I don't know where they would play in Oakland because the stadium is so horrible. San Diego has that soccer stadium, Snapdragon Stadium. I don't know if I guess they could set it up so that they can play in there. But that's where San Diego State plays their college football. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I think you need to take advantage of the anger. But those are the only NFL cities that have, or former NFL cities that have lost teams of late.
Yeah, man, that is so unfortunate.
Yeah.
I
So
hate
hopefully
to hear that.
hopefully the players will not strike.
No. So they don't have a union. They're trying to create a union.
They've got a union, but apparently there have been months of negotiations that have not gone anywhere.
Ooh, that's really bad.
Yeah. So, but sometimes it is what it is. All right. Our thanks to Mike Claiborne and to Polo Ascencio. Tomorrow is opening day. Who do we got tomorrow? I think we got somebody on opening day, right?
We're trying. We're efforting.
Pickleball is more interesting. Oh, come on now.
Brooke versus Denton. Pickleball is more interesting.
Typically, Brooke versus Denton.
Okay. Well, there you go. Okay. Thanks, GB.
that
Appreciate
should be also ticketed. That's something that we might have to open up after the pregnancy, because as you heard, Denton takes a little bit too much pride in injuring people, and I don't want to get injured pregnant.
Okay.
But when I come back, John Denton, I'm coming after you.
Okay. That's what we want to hear. Batting practice tomorrow at 12:05. So you can see our whole show on YouTube. Twins batting practice at 1:00. Pregame ceremonies begin at 2:30 tomorrow at the ballpark. Introduction of Fredbird and Team Fredbird. That's important at 2:30. And then the introduction of the Cardinals at 2:49. 2:49 is pretty specific, isn't
That is
it?
a very specific time.
And then when does Jim Edmonds walk out?
Randy.
It's
Everybody
between
else.
2:30 and 2:49 that we get to see.
In case you missed it, he will be there. I know that a lot of people were wondering if he would be there after the comments that he made, but he will be there.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward. Yeah. The Red Jackets, you want to know the Red Jackets that are going to be there?
Sure.
Expected to take part are Tony La Russa, Ted Simmons, Ozzie Smith, and Joe Torre. Those are your National Baseball Hall of Famers. Your Cardinal Hall of Famers, Vince Coleman, who is now a friend of the show, Jim Edmonds, Matt Holliday, Izzy, Ray Langford, Matt Morris, Jose Oquendo, Scott Rowland, and John Tudor.
Nice.
So that'll be fun.
That'll be a great lineup.
Yeah, I want to stop by and say hi to Vince and Matt and Izzy. Oh, yeah, we efforted Izzy for this show, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
And Matty Moe and Jose Oquendo, a good group, and Ozzie and Joe Torre. So, yeah, it'll be fun. Looking forward to tomorrow. Opening day in St. Louis should be a holiday, and the Cardinals are working on it. For our outstanding audio video producer engineer, Matthew Rocchio, and for Brooke Grimsley featuring, I'm Randy Karraker. Thanks so much for joining us on the Randy Karraker Show featuring Brooke Grimsley. We will see you tomorrow morning at 10:02.